So, launching well. It's interesting. I just did session 6 of an identity course this morning. We have a group of South Africans and Canadians that are taking the course together, which has just been fascinating. And session 6 is a really interesting session because they bring the programming and we kind of, help guide the conversation, but we kind of pull back and ask them, what is it that God has said to you? Where is his invitation? What is he inviting you into? And lots of times people don't quite know what to do with it. And they're like, oh my goodness, but tell me exactly what to do, or they get stuck in some way. As I've been thinking about this practice that we do, someone mentioned 2 words to me, and that is growth mindset. And that kind of intrigued me, and I decided to do a little bit of research. But according to the Harvard Business Review, individuals who believe their talents can be developed through hard work, good strategies, and input from others have a growth mindset. So people who think that they can learn and grow and develop, and these people tend to achieve more than those with a more fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset would be that sense that, I have what I have, and that's the limit. And, it's very much that it's static and you're sort of stuck with what you have. So a growth mindset is this sense that what I have, my strengths, my gifts, can be further developed, leading to effectiveness and fruitfulness. And the identity course, if it does anything, pushes people towards a growth mindset by first helping them identify their strengths and gifts, which, is super interesting because there'll be people who have been in the church for a long time, but have never thought deeply about their gifts and strengths. But then we go even further and ask them to strategically develop those gifts and strengths for use in God's kingdom. And lots of people are uncomfortable with this. And I get it completely. They'd rather stay in their comfort zone. But those who are able to catch the vision for this can make significant breakthrough in understanding who they are and what they're to do. So this morning, my group, there was a woman in there. She's from South Africa, and she was a participant who had a history of, and these are her words, of stepping back, always wanting to step back and kind of stay in the safe zone. But the course has helped flip the narrative on its head. That's how she described it. And she feels like God's saying, take the lead, own it. She started a new job that's stretching her in different ways. And she described this new job as a training ground. So as I heard her, I'm like, that's the growth mindset. And I just think, wow, like that's amazing. But how do we cultivate that in other people? So there's this saying that I love, and I think it was Simon Sinek who said it, but it's basically leader goes first. So as facilitators, we have to ask ourselves, do we have a growth mindset? Do we believe our strengths and our gifts can be developed further? And if so, what are we actually doing to develop them? So there's different ways you can cultivate a growth mindset. The first thing you can do is show up, put in effort to what you take on. Things that matter, things that are fruitful always require kind of that concerted effort. But also take on challenges on purpose. Fixed mindset people shy away from challenges because they often fear failure. They just want to do what they know that they can do. But growth mindset people will go, I'm not sure I can do that, but I'm going to give it a go because I feel like God is inviting me to this. And it makes me think of how we teach on the pilot project of like, just try, just try. Another tip to cultivating a growth mindset is to reframe mistakes, failures, and setbacks as growth opportunities, which actually will increase your resilience. I'm trying to do this myself right now as we think about how we deliver our courses. You know, not everything that we have tried in the last 2 years is working like super well. And you know, there's areas that need improvement, that need refinement. But I'm trying to tell myself, okay, wait a minute, this isn't failure. This isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm trying to reject sort of that discouragement and ask myself instead, what have we learned through our different things that we've tried? What could we try next? And so this growth mindset is something that each one of us can cultivate within ourselves. So we're going to send you into a breakout room, and I'm trusting Darcy is there and ready to do that. I'm going to share my screen with you. And these are the questions that you're going to be asked and to discuss together for the next 10 minutes. And if you've got a smartphone, I'd encourage you just to take a picture of them now so that you have them right in front of you. It will also be in the chat window, but it might be easier just to take a picture. So the questions are, how are you cultivating your own growth mindset? What are your barriers to a growth mindset, and where do you need breakthrough?
Very good. Well, welcome back, everyone.
Coach.
It's a pleasure to have you back. So as leaders, we go first, cultivating our own growth mindset, but through the identity course, we're wanting to encourage it in others. And I think that for me is what really excited me about the identity course. Even before I got involved, I watched that happen in the lives of so many women. I would be upstairs in our room. I wasn't allowed to go to the identity course. And it was just like these women kept doing things with it. So we asked people to consolidate their learning through the identity statement and through the SMARTER goals. Those are a couple of ways that we ask people to consolidate their learning. The first thing there is the identity statement. And that's a powerful ownership statement. So this is the key word in my identity statement, the word coach. And it's interesting, like to say that word out loud, and even for me to put it in front of you, it feels like it feels a bit scary for me. But as I've walked through the identity course and as I've written this out and talked about it, it's become something that I own. And this is really powerful for people, because so many of us walk into the identity course with labels that are inaccurate. Lots of negative labels, lots of negative words that have been spoken over us. And so when we get to that last session and we use that identity statement and say it out loud, and like something can happen inside of us. So that's one way that we encourage consolidation of learning. The second way is through those SMARTER goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. Now, those are the regular ones, but here at Zoe, we've added 2, and we're quite excited about them because they're SMARTER goals. So the word enthusiastic about the goals, like the things that bring you life, you're excited about them. And lastly, relational goals, where you're doing them in connection with someone else, or somebody else knows about them. Now, by encouraging people to write down their identity statement and to write down their goals in session 6. Something happens when we actually physically write things down. So Dr. Gail Matthews did a study, and her study showed that you are 62% more likely to achieve your goals by A, writing them down, and B, sharing them with a friend. And so, like, that's part of why we do session 6. So it shows that you're committing to something when you write it down, and you're accountable to someone as you write it down, which is another reason why we say, even for facilitators training, try and take the course with somebody else that you know. So it's not just a group of strangers gathering together, but it's more than that. So action steps, taking steps forward, pointing people to things, activating what God has placed in them. Some people pick it up and run with it, and others get stuck. And there will never be 100% in terms of people moving forward. And we aren't responsible for the growth that happens or doesn't happen. We're just there to facilitate and help with the process. The responsibility lies with people, and we trust God with it all. So we're going to point you back to your breakout groups to discuss further questions. And Leanne, do you have, oh, she does. She has the special questions for breakout too. So what are your best ways you've discovered to cultivate a growth mindset in participants? How can you help consolidate learning? How can you help participants keep momentum with what they've learned? And what do you do when people get stuck? This time, we'd love for you to take some notes. And so we want to hear kind of what kind of came out for you. So because of time, we're the number of groups that we have, here's what we're going to try to do. If you can give a best way, like one best answer for each question, because don't worry, somebody else will have it as well, but maybe your best one. So I'm going to start with Tiffany's group. Tiff, do you want to have somebody from your group kind of answer those 4 questions?
We didn't do it that way, Darcy.
Oh no, you didn't.
We just did one tip. We were coming back with one tip.
Oh.
I don't know if anyone else did it that way. Anyway, go on.
We got a whole page of information. I got tips for everything. I got a great, really smart group.
Okay, so Tiff, you answered my question the way that I asked it. Leanne, answer your own question the way that you answered it. I'm not gonna mess with marital discord at this juncture. So
Okay,
fire away, Tiff.
One answer to the first bullet point is what you asked. So the question is, what are your best ways? Oh, that was a hard question for me to read. So how do we cultivate a growth mindset in the participants? One of the things we talked about was encouraging people to step out and acknowledging how they've seen growth. So an example was somebody that was in a group is now a worship leader, and like there takes intentional discipleship throughout that, but knowing that that's not the final step for that person, but still showing up and providing discipleship.
That's good. Now, from the other questions, was there anything else that you have to share?
Yeah, I love our group because a big theme that came out was empowering others and speaking out. So if you see something in someone, say it, and then that helps create space for them to reflect on what they have been learning, but also reflect on what could come out of their learning. So
that's brilliant. I love that. And that takes courage on the part of the facilitator, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of vulnerability in that.
Yeah.
Fiona's awesome at it.
She is actually. Okay, so I'm going to move over to Jim. Now, Jim, I don't know how your group came up with stuff, if it was the Leanne way or the Darcy way. So you just answer how you feel led.
Okay, I don't want to get in between you two, but I do find it interesting you decide to be in different rooms for this call. Interesting. So normally you're side by side. So.
I wasn't allowed to be in the same room as Leanne, so that I could help
So for the first question, what is the best way to help or have discovered cultivate a growth mindset in participants? I guess the best answer, or the one answer we had most discussion on, was asking open-ended questions, right? So allowing conversation to flow was the key one that we did on there. The next two we kind of combined together. How can you help consolidate learning, and how do you help participants keep momentum going? Shauna had a great suggestion of a follow-up email to participants, and I think what was really good about that is she also talked about somehow connecting back to the course in that email. So not simply a hey, how you doing, but we learned this, or we had this as a takeaway, or something like that, some sort of summary or prompt within that. And just allowing that opportunity to be able to connect back to the course, because as she said, as soon as we leave, we're all busy. We get onto our rest of our lives sort of thing, and so that was pretty powerful. And for stuck, what do you do when people get stuck? Aaron's suggestion we came back to, and that was prayer, and pulling people back to prayer, and looking for always being encouraging and asking questions and stuff, but ultimately bringing it back to that, and really understanding the reason why either you feel stuck or are in that position of being stuck. So yeah.
Thanks, Jim. That second one, where you don't just say how you're all doing, but go back to a key component or a key moment in the course. That's really powerful, because it gets specific right away. I love that idea.
Yeah, the way that Shauna had put it was, it helps you connect back to it, right? Because it could be a days, weeks, later, whenever you're doing it. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Anne, your group.
Yes. So for the first question, staying with the smarter goal that we already have, but asking like, what are the ways that you will continue and achieve? So bringing it down to small portions of the smarter goal, and clarifying the smarter goal.
Mhm.
Also, with the second question was, okay, one good question to ask was, how long have you been thinking about this goal? And sometimes the answer is like 3 or 4 years. And just to bring back that now is the time.
Oh,
Not just like,
wow.
but just, I thought that was a great
That's powerful.
statement. Now is the time. And then I guess an answer, we kind of worked on the 4 questions a little at once,
Yeah.
cheering them on, championing them, and telling them to reposition their crown because they're a daughter of the king. So that's something that was said in our group. Now, the last one, I won't say who said that, but when someone is stuck, you give them a good kick in the butt, is what was said in my group.
That's really interesting, because I was thinking about that. I wondered if that happens in a Zoe group, if there is a good kick in the butt. So what does that look like? And in a Zoe identity group, is that a personal conversation? Is that in front of everybody that you kick someone in the butt? Like what?
It never happened to me that I kicked someone. So if you want, we can let this this facilitator share how she does it.
You know what? So I'll watch our time, but in the chat, if you could put the facilitator who said that, if you can put in the chat, I would appreciate that, because I was wondering if that happened. Like that was.
Well, one of the things that came was the idea of challenging. So with the idea of kicking in the butt, there was the idea of challenging,
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, maybe you want to hear it more from this facilitator.
Yeah, that would be great. So put that in.
All right.
I'm going to move to Sarah's group.
Yes, we kind of followed along the path of like Anne's group, where we just we're talking kind of about all of the questions and what kind of resonated with each person, but a couple of points that came out of it, which I thought were really good. One of them was, and I think that this came from kind of focusing on question 2, was get them to use their gifts right away. Like just a tangible way of getting someone to kind of consolidate that learning and implement it just helps to solidify what's kind of going on in their process, right? Whether, you know, they've learned what their strengths are, their spiritual gifts, or whatever. Just present them opportunities to start using them right away as well, and kind of help them with that. And then another thing with kind of question 3 that I thought was good was just focusing on, and I think Jim was talking about this too, where, you know, to have an email communication or something throughout the week, whether it's email, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, like whatever a group uses, just to use that time for encouragement as they're learning and what they're processing, refreshing what, you know, what we've learned so far and all those things, just to help the participants or the facilitators just be reminded of what's been going on, to just to keep that learning and that that processing going, to help again solidify what's going on so that it doesn't get lost in the mix, and then just to help them just cultivate that growth mindset as well, just to keep growing in that. So
No,
yeah,
that's good.
Our group.
Thank you. Leanne, in your group, I think you're saying that you
Mel.
had somebody's going to share. Mel?
Yeah, what we did this exercise a little bit different. We just
I
have
can
one
tell.
point. Well, go ahead.
I had to follow Leanne's lead, Darcy. So I didn't do this. No, just kidding. Just kidding. I picked Leanne in this. No, no, I was saying that when I do it, so normally I set an alarm on my phone for 4 weeks after we finish. So I just finished one 2 weeks ago. So in about 2 weeks, I'll message the women that were a part of my group individually and just check in. Just how are you doing? Have you taken any steps into completing any of your SMART goals? Like just a personalized message. Like I've written down their SMART goals. Like I write them down while I'm there. So just checking in with them and allowing that time to like, just, I know we get busy, right? So in that 4 weeks, you know, just, and maybe nothing's happened in 4 weeks. And then sometimes I'll check in a little bit later. And I mean, I know most of my girls, so I usually check in more than that, but usually that 4 week mark, just to see if any steps have at least started to be taken. So
that's powerful. I think Milen, I was asking if there's any examples that of one of those follow-up emails that we can share. And so if you have an example of a follow-up email and can send it to Leanne, we'll get it out. We'll get it out to you. And perhaps if it's really dang good, we'll put it in the resources.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we are doing is working on our templates, right? So that you can just grab something. There's nothing worse than a blank screen. But we'll give you templates so that, and you can make it your own. But yeah, Deb had a great point about listening to people. Why are they stuck? Like, it's just reflecting back. Sandy Joe said, you know, just reflect back what it is that you see in people. So good.
Okay, back to you, Mrs. McAllister.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. And because I'm really excited about Thrive, you guys. And can we just give a special shout out to Fiona? Because Fiona has been, Fiona has been we've been writing partners on this course, and we're thrilled with what's come together. And we hope that you're going to really enjoy it. So to give you a little overview of Thrive, leading ourselves, it's 5 sessions or 6 sessions in length. Pardon me. There is six sessions. There's kind of bringing it all together session as well. But the whole idea of Thrive is that the identity course answers the questions, who am I? What am I to do? And we would often see people who would get all pumped up and like, yes. And then they would sort of get stuck because, as you know, in leadership, to actually move forward in things, we need to lead ourselves well and be the type of people that can sustain the calling on our lives. And so Thrive came out of, seeing kind of that, and it's a complete next step to what it means to follow in your part in God's mission. So session 1 is called to maturity. It's helping people understand that like maturity is not just for the professional Christians, the pastors and the missionaries, but it's for each one of us to mature in him. And then we work through cultivating our spirit. How do we connect with God? What are some of our best ways of connecting with God? Because again, we're unique people, but he is the source of everything. Renewing our mind. We talk about taking toxic thoughts captive, replacing them with the truth and being free in our minds, regulating our emotions. Oh my goodness, I didn't do this very well. Okay, I was looking after my granddaughter last week when I was making this, so I'm just going to blame her or blame Grammy, who was really distracted. But regulating this should say emotions. We have, the capacity to experience a great range of emotions, and but we're called to be mature in our emotions and regulating it, as well as honoring our bodies. Your body contains a spiritual soul that is meant to house the Spirit of God. This means that your body is a holy place. So this isn't about like diet and exercise and doing all that. It's really about what does it mean to be an image bearer, and what does it mean to honor God with your body? And then session 6 is called Your Next Best Step, which is really about, okay, based on what we've talked about together, where's the invitation? And that's the key word, the invitation, because you could go through a course like this and get totally overwhelmed by like, oh, I have to do all these things. No, you don't. You need to listen to where Holy Spirit is asking you to come closer to him in one of these areas. So Thrive is going to be available in February. We've written this as a team. We've tested it for a total of 3 times with 3 different groups. We've tested it with women, we've tested it with men, and we have finally landed. The problem with landing is I never feel like a course is ever done. Like I go through the ID course and I'm like, oh, I want to change that and that and that. But we've had the input of diverse people, and that's so valuable. And we're proud of what we together have created. Participants must take the ID course to go on to take Thrive. So this is not a standalone course that, oh, I'm not interested in ID, I want to do Thrive. It builds on it. Active identity facilitators will be given priority to take the course first. So if you are interested, and by active, we mean like active, like leading a group. And so that's going to be our priority. But if you're interested, you can fill out an inquiry form that I am going to place in the chat, just so that we can know if that's of interest to you. Anne and her team will begin to translate Thrive into French. And, anyone who's ever been a part of a translation project, it's a massive undertaking. So be in prayer for Anne and her team. And we're going to be doing some fundraising over Christmas. So if that's something you're interested in helping out with, we would welcome that. But is there any questions that you would have about Thrive?
Sounds like an amazing course. Yeah.
Yeah, we took all the trainers through it. It was probably, I want to say 80% there. And so Jim and Tiffany and Fiona, who else has been through it? Aaron's been through it, and been through it, Darcy and I. So yeah, it's just, again, it's that challenge. It's calling people on to maturity.
So our hope is that next week, Leanne and I will be in quarantine in Asia in our hotel room, and we will bring all of our video gear and film it. That's our big quarantine project this December. So as you watch it, you can laugh at our plight.
Yes.
We wanted to just highlight for you that we do have a Christmas campaign coming up with 4 major pieces. One of them is to raise money towards the Thrive translation to have it in French. And so that's one piece that we want to raise funds for. A second is Zoe scholarships of $250 Canadian, sponsoring a woman in theological studies in Uganda. Some of the women who we've helped get through school are unbelievable leaders. And I wish, like, one of my dreams is actually to bring them into the same virtual room with some of us at some point, because they are powerhouse women. It's really special. Also to help with a leadership conference in Cambodia. Tiffany Rowley and Sarah Curdy are working on that. And we feel like $25 will be enough to sponsor someone to come. And that is just we're trying to see if Sarah can actually be there. So this is a 2022 project.
Mm-hmm.
And then to make way for facilitators and to have international sponsorship for facilitators.
Mm-hmm.
So that if there's a facilitator who wants to take the course in another nation but doesn't have the resources to do it, that they can do it. And that we've done a number of those and had a number of churches help with that, and it is, again, has made a significant impact. Back to you, Leanne, after saying this: consider sharing these projects within your community, your Zoe groups, and if you see them on social media, go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, Leanne, my screen disappeared.
Okay, just mute you and it's all good. So yeah, like, follow on Instagram. There's some really cool stuff happening on there. There's some Advent readings that will be there through the month of December. January, the first 2 weeks on Instagram will be a prayer focus for 14 days. So there's lots of good things coming your way. Couple of things to note. Our next Facilitator Connect call will be March 14th. So we will not be meeting again for about 3-4 months. We meet 4 times a year. So March 14th, we will let you know via email that that's coming. December 5th, which is a Sunday night, from 4 to 8 p.m. Eastern, the Teachable site will be down. They're going to do some, I don't know, like behind the scenes fixing. And so I doubt there's many groups running on Sunday night. I'm not aware of any, but just so you know, if you went to Teachable in those 4 hours, you would be gravely disappointed. The third thing to note is that we will be offering coaching groups for facilitators again. So Michelle and Mel and Denise and I met every 2 weeks throughout the fall, and we had a wonderful time just talking about facilitation as Michelle was doing her very first group. Denise and Mel were doing their second or third group, but we really enjoyed it. And it's very low key. It's about 40 minutes every time we meet. Why am I telling you this? We're going to do it again. And so Sandy Joe, I know you're thinking of doing a January group. Glenda, I don't know where you're at, but if you'd like to meet with others, like, message me, because we will put those groups together. There'll be small groups intimate groups, casual, right, Mel? Right, Michelle? They're not, I don't come with all of the things to teach. We all come and we share what we're learning, because I'm a practitioner as well. I'm learning how to facilitate the courses. And so we meet together to really encourage each other and answer questions and share ideas. And it's been game changing for us, I do believe. And Michelle and Mel, Denise, you can come again for sure. There's never a cutoff point with that. So if you're interested in a coaching group, send me a quick email and I'll put it in. Darcy, can you put my email address in the chat? And then we'll go from there. Is there any questions before we go?